What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. Today I've got some more Entitled Parents stories for you, which you're gonna love. Entitled Mum destroys art installation. Last summer we were at a beach festival and one of the activities was a sand sculpture contest. There were many intricate and beautiful sculptures, including one of Cinderella's castle. I'm not a Disney fan, but the guy making it did a great job. It was hard to believe it was made out of sand. As he was finishing up, an Entitled Mum approached with her kid, probably 3 or 4 years old, and the conversation went something like this. That's really beautiful. Thanks, I've been working on it for hours. My daughter loves Cinderella and she wants to help you. Meanwhile, the kid is just standing there and not indicating in any way that she either loves Cinderella or wants to help. That's really nice, but this is pretty detailed. If you want, you can use my tools to make your own castle. This Entitled Mum's voice is so shrill that dogs within a mile were probably whining in pain. She doesn't want to work on some baby castle. She wants to work on Cinderella's castle, and you will let her help you. Meanwhile, the kid is still not indicating any desire to work on any castle. I'm sorry then, I can't help you. What's wrong with you anyway? A grown man playing in the sand? What are you, idiotic? Yes, she went there. Or are you trying to lure kids over here so you can molest them? I need to get back to work now. Could you please step back? I'll show you. At this point, the Entitled Mum ducked under the tape around and marched right through the sculpture, reducing it to a big clump of sand. Your stupid castle was ugly anyway. The sand dude and everyone else within hearing distance just stood there with their mouth open. I don't know what happened then because I'm a wimp as far as confrontation goes, so I fled. But man, what a female dog. Oh my goodness me, what a terrible story. Seriously, that dude has probably spent hours, if not days, crafting a massive, beautiful sandcastle. I don't know if you guys have ever seen sand art before, but it is so impressive. You know what, I'll put a picture up on screen now. I mean, look how insane that is. This is literally the equivalent of going into an art museum and destroying the artwork on the walls. It's that bad. Poor sand dude, man. I just hope a seagull came and pooped right on her head after that for karma. Moving on to our next story. Entitled Aunt tried to kill our dog. Oh, it gets even better. Back in September 2008, my grandmother had a heart attack. You've read about her in this post and this one and had to be hospitalized. Who are you to assume, shy girl turned sassy? I haven't read either of those posts. I had recently moved out of my parental home. My stepbrother too had moved out just a year earlier. When my dad and stepmom were taking turns staying with her in the hospital, my paternal aunt would just drop in for a few minutes, make small talk and leave. She suggested that my dad should kill our dog Dennis. The reason she gave for this kick in the butt worthy advice was that Dennis was a black dog and black dogs bring bad luck. What the actual frick? Her mother was obviously in the hospital because of the dog, and certainly not because, in spite of being diabetic and having a high cholesterol, she refused to stop stuffing her face with fried junk. My dad, of course, told her to shut her trap. Just a few days later, my grand monster kicked the proverbial bucket. Cue insane willing and crying from my aunt, while going on and on about how she wouldn't have lost her mother if only that dang dog had been put down. You may wonder why she was so obsessed with killing Dennis. It's because Dennis had never liked her or her husband and son. He would growl at them when they came near him. He was a smart dog, and I guess he could sense what trash people they were. Dennis was a mongrel, 24 inches at the withers and weighed around 90 pounds. So of course, when he growled, he appeared intimidating. She was also really jealous of him and always commented on how we were wasting money by feeding and caring for him well. Grand Monster's illness and subsequent death gave crazy aunt an opportunity to get revenge. I began to fear for Dennis as soon as I heard what that POS had said. Since my stepbrother couldn't make it, I decided to take time off work and go to my dad's place. This was mostly to watch over Dennis and make sure my aunt and her family didn't get a chance to harm him. My dad made arrangements for the funeral, talked to the priest, etc., while my stepmom and I cooked and got the house ready. My aunt was there too, but mostly milking the occasion for attention and being a crying, wailing basket case. She was still going on about how the dog had brought bad luck. However, when my stepmom told me to cook Dennis's chicken stew for him while she took a bath and got dressed, my aunt began to act real funny. She would hang around the kitchen and near the food on the pretense of making small talk with me. I just gave her monosyllabic responses, hoping she would F off. Just as I got the stew off the burner, I heard my dad walk in through the front door. He called out to me, probably needed my help with something. I began walking towards the front gate in a hurry. However, as I reached the door, I was overcome with a horrible feeling. In my haste, I had left crazy aunt alone with Dennis's food. I ran back to the kitchen with my dad asking me what the heck was wrong. I entered the kitchen to find that monumental idiot pouring some sort of white substance into Dennis's chicken stew. My father took it from my aunt's hands and instantly identified it as a kind of rat poison. I watched that substance get dissolved into the stew do and disappear, leaving no trace of foul play. If my aunt hadn't got caught, we would have surely lost our beloved family member. My aunt just stood there with a deer-in-headlights look on her face. I can't remember the last time I had seen my dad so angry. He told her she was to attend Grand Monster's funeral and then never show him her face again, while I somehow overcame the urge to throttle her. My stepmom too had joined us and was told what happened. My aunt somehow stammered that she was doing what was right for the family, repeating the nonsense about black dogs bringing bad luck. Of course, no one was having it. My uncle arrived shortly afterwards, and in spite of being a grade A butthole himself, he did have the decency to look ashamed when he was told what his wife had tried to pull. My dad didn't speak to them for over 2 years. He only contacted them again when he found out that they were in a dire state financially. As for Dennis, the good boy lived a long and healthy life. He passed away last year at the age of 14, surrounded by those who truly loved him. You know, I can never ever understand these entitled parent stories about wanting to kill animals. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Why would you ever want to kill your family member's pet? I just can never understand that. Like, yeah, I get it, maybe you don't like them, but come on, people love that animal. Also, animals are just so helpless in this situation. They can't do anything to stop this poison, for instance. They have no idea. Who are you to try and poison your family's dog? Like, what the heck? Also, no wonder Dennis didn't like your aunt, her husband, or son. If animals growl at someone, then more often than not, they're just a bad person. They can sense it, you know. Now for our last story. My entitled grandmother stole my new clothes and exchanged them for steel utensils, so I gave away her utensils. I'm Indian, and in my country till a few years ago, you could get steel utensils from door-to-door vendors in exchange for clothes. This barter system still exists in villages and some small towns. My grandmother, being the insane hoarder that she was, loved getting utensils in this manner. Utensils that no one else was allowed to touch, that she would never use and would only gather dust in her room. Anytime my stepmom or my dad tried to donate our old clothes to charity, that idiot would throw a hissy fit. She'd collect all the clothes we weren't going to wear anymore so she could exchange them for pots and pans. At times, she would take it a step further and demand clothes that we were still going to wear. She would insist that they don't fit us anymore, or some other BS argument to get us to hand them over. Seriously, we had to sometimes fight her to keep our clothes. Oh, but she never gave away her own clothes. She only took garments from others, namely me, my dad, my stepmom, and my stepbrother. When I was around 21, I had just lost a lot of weight and needed new clothes. Yes, I live with my parents. In India, you can't afford to live independently unless you have a well-paying job, and I was in college at that time. So one day, I went to a local store's clearance sale and bought a bunch of new threads. I left them on my bed and went off to a friend's place. When I returned a few hours later, my new clothes were gone. My dad, stepmom, and brother weren't home, so I figured out instantly who must have taken them. I confronted the Grand Monster and asked what she'd done with my clothes. She was sitting on her bed admiring her latest haul of pots and pans. Without even looking up, she told me my clothes were ugly and too westernized, and that she did the right thing by exchanging them for something useful. As you can imagine, I lost my temper. I yelled, cursed at her, called her every name in the book, and she had the audacity to actually defend her actions. That evening, there was a major showdown in our home. I was still livid and asked my dad exactly how long we were going to put up with her abuse. My stepmother and I didn't get along, but when one of us was up against Grand Monster, the other always lent her support. This was no different. My stepmother agreed with me wholeheartedly. My dad told Grand Monster that she was now forbidden from entering my room without my prior permission. She started to fake cry and said we were all being so cruel to her. My dad later came to my room and said he would make it up to me and buy me new clothes. I, of course, was still livid, and I wasn't about to let that idiot have this victory. My grandmother needed sleeping pills to fall asleep. She even took them during the day, and she slept like the dead. A few days later, I snuck into her room during her afternoon nap. I opened her utensils trunk, yes, she had a whole trunk full of them, and took out a whole bunch of her beloved pots, glasses, plates, etc. I shut the lid quietly and exited. I went straight to an old age shelter that was nearby. I donated the utensils and earned the joy of giving and the taste of sweet, sweet revenge. I didn't tell anyone what I had done and just waited for Grand Monster to discover her loss, which she did just a few days later. It happened in the evening. I was in the kitchen cooking dinner when I heard her ear-piercing wailings about how someone had stolen from her utensils chest. A satisfied smile spread across my face. My dad called me into grandmother's room and asked if I knew anything about the missing utensils. I admitted that I had taken and donated them. Grandmonster looked like her head would explode. I calmly told her I had done the right thing because those utensils were ugly and that the shelter needed them more. And clearly, if she could come into my room and take my things without asking, I could jolly well do the same. I think my dad was upset with me, but really he had nothing to say to me. He spent the next hour or so trying to calm his mother down. I slept so freaking well that night. When Grandmonster died a few years later, the first of her belongings that we got rid of were those freaking utensils. Well, I'm not surprised. That's such a strange thing to collect, like to hoard. Utensils? Why? I don't really get it. That should be on like My Strange Addiction or something like that. I'm addicted to steal utensils. So strange. I guess some people enjoy crack cocaine. Your grandma enjoys steel utensils. On the whole, it sounds like your grandmother was addicted to getting new stuff and didn't really care about anyone else. Anyway guys, that is going to be it for this episode of r/Entitled Parents. I really hope you have enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like on this video, comment your opinions on these stories down below, and subscribe if you haven't already for daily Reddit content on my channel. If you want more immediately, the video is there for you on screen right now. If not, I will see you guys same place, same time tomorrow for a brand new upload.